welcome everyone to the Q2 2023 State of NAIFA. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all NAIFA President Bryon Holz.
And here we are. Thank you, Zach, and welcome NAIFA Nation to our 18th State of NAIFA. Can you believe it? We're in the second quarter of 2023, and I'm sure you'll agree that there's never been a more exciting time to belong to NAIFA. As the pandemic comes to an official end, our hard work that we have consistently put in since our membership voted to restructure is really paying off. Over a year ago, we decided to refocus on our core mission, membership, grassroots, and NAIFA PAC, and that focus is paying dividends. I'm happy to report that as of the end of March, we have just completed 8 straight months of continuous membership growth. And not just meeting our membership goals, but exceeding them. Our growth is due to a multitude of factors, including our awesome new leaders who were sworn in during our National Leadership Conference and took office officially as of January 1st, 2023. They are bringing new energy and innovation to their chapters, and we are connecting with the needs of a new generation of agents and advisors that appreciate NAIFA's history and as an institution in which they can trust. And new programs that focus on what NAIFA does best: state, interstate, and federal advocacy. To all the new members who are on the call today, welcome. Thank you for choosing to belong to your professional association and answering the call to serve Main Street Americans. One of the reasons that new people are joining NAIFA is our consumer-facing website found at financialsecurity.org, which includes a find and advisor directory of NAIFA advisors and agents. We are doing 3 things well that are now coming to fruition and growing the demand for NAIFA. Our time and energy going direct to consumers to provide education as to what financial advisors and insurance agents do and why you need to choose one who is under a code of ethics as NAIFA members is paying off. Our members are proudly displayed under the Find an Advisor directory, and those who have won and earned the NAIFA Quality Award and received their Financial Security Advocate badge are prominently displayed. Our work advocating at the state level to require financial literacy requirements in order to graduate from high school is also paying off. More and more states are taking up this initiative, and NAIFA is there every step of the way because financial literacy is the first step for financial security for Americans. Our work to make students aware of a career in financial services is also paying off. We launched our Future Leaders program in 2020, and this free virtual online program has now graduated dozens and dozens of students who are primed to enter the financial services workforce, something that we all know is desperately needed, given the 10,000 people each day turning 65, and the fact that the millennial generation is the largest generation in U.S. history and is the dominant population workforce right now. We need a strong financial services workforce that matches up with our dynamically changing Main Street USA. And NAIFA is the organization that is making it happen. And with 84 participants that just graduated from this program in February, NAIFA has not only stepped up, but is leading the charge. While we still saw a strong demand for virtual online programs, we also heard that advisors and agents are ready for face-to-face once again. One area that is easy to see in the demand for in-person is Leadership in Life Institute, or our Lilly classes, which have now seen a huge uptake over the last quarter. Currently, 4 states, Iowa, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and Virginia have classes in session, with 14 more states now accepting enrollments and opening up in-person classes. As a Lilly grad myself, I couldn't be more proud to see this dynamic program come roaring back to life. Of course, the online option that we introduced during the pandemic will continue to be available. giving our members even more choice as to how to engage with NAIFA to further their personal leadership development. Now let's shift gears and look ahead to what's in store for us this quarter. We are all gearing up for our 8th annual DEI Symposium, which will be held prior to our congressional conference. Our DEI program is part of our 2025 strategic plan, and this year focuses on how we can lead the industry in helping to see the benefits of a diversified membership base that is trained in grassroots and advocating for Main Street American consumers. We have an absolute power-packed program with sessions that discuss the state of diversity in government relations, the state of women's economic security, as well as sessions that alert advisors about the tools that can be used for disabled individuals to provide other options to increase financial security. We are proud to again offer this much needed program through the support of One America, New York Life, Cambridge, Guardian, Northwestern Mutual, and Emeritus. And following the DEI Symposium, we will hold our 10th annual congressional conference that we have come to know in its current format. Yes, our crown jewel. We have already had over 400 registrants for the conference, and we are thrilled. With inflation and the cost of a hotel room in Washington, D.C. skyrocketing, our hats are off to our members who made the commitment to come to Capitol Hill each year to unify our voices on behalf of our businesses and the clients we serve. If you've never experienced the thrill of coming to DC to represent your clients, then please consider this my personal invitation to experience your first time there. And I assure you, this will be one of the best investments you can make in your own practice. All you need to do is show up, and NAIFA will take care of prepping you, scheduling meetings, and ensuring that you get the publicity you deserve to explain to your clients and prospects why you are out of the office on their behalf. The next area we're developing this quarter is the exciting relaunch of the LUTCF program. NAIFA is overhauling the program and is currently seeking exam item writers and beta testers for the newly refreshed course, which will launch this summer. NAIFA is thrilled to again fully control this designation that is held by over 70,000 advisors worldwide. And we're determined that this new iteration is even better than ever. If you hold the LUTCF and are interested in being involved in this historic relaunch, then please reach out to us and let us know. We've covered just a few of our highlights that provide evidence of how we deliver on our membership promise to advocate, educate, and differentiate. We've talked about our work in membership, grassroots, and now I want to take a moment to touch on our NAIFA PAC, which despite the pandemic, remains one of the biggest and strongest in the industry. And one of the reasons our NAIFA PAC is so effective is because of the belief of its importance and the generosity shown by its contributors. None so much as Terry Headley, past national president and the namesake of our Terry Headley Lifetime Defender Industry Award. Sadly, this past quarter, we lost our dear friend. And what a loss it is, not just to NAIFA, but to the industry. We bestowed the title of Commander to Terry due to his tireless grassroots efforts and contributions to NAIFA PAC. We look forward to further honoring him and his work at this year's congressional conference. But at this time, please join me in a moment of silence to remember and appreciate Terry. Thank you. Now, please join me in welcoming our CEO, Kevin Mayeux, for an association update. Kevin?
Thank you very much, Bryon. Welcome, NAIFA Nation. We're glad that you were able to join us here today for our Q2 State of NAIFA address here in 2023. Just want to talk about a couple of key things following up on what Bryon said. One, NAIFA is doing what we can every single day to deliver on our strong membership promise to help advocate, educate, and differentiate you as a NAIFA member and a trusted advisor for your consumers all across this country. To do that, we've encapsulated the work that we did last year in 2022 into our 2022 annual report, which outlines all the key programs and services and the great work that you did as the NAIFA Nation throughout the course of this past year. To access a copy of our 2022 annual report, it's pretty simple. Just go to the website. You can download it digitally at belong.naifa.org/2022. I want to thank each of you for the great work that you did throughout the past year and for the fantastic work you are doing this year, again, to help us advance our membership promise. And I want to thank all of our partners and our supporters and our members who have done their share, again, helping to elevate the profession and help to make sure that we have a unified voice on policy all across this great country. This new year, can you believe it, 2023 is our third year of our 2025 strategic plan. And this is now our second quarter, as we're in April already, of our new 2023 business implementation plan on the 2025 strategic plan. Again, the plan emphasizes three key things, which is growing our membership, amplifying our brand, and delivering exceptional value to our members from coast to coast. It's our way of being transparent about the work that NAIFA is doing in a systematic way to, again, build the biggest, strongest, most impactful professional association we can. If you'd like to download the NAIFA 2025 strategic plan and our business implementation plan for this year, it's available at your fingertips at any time, again, by going to belong.naifa.org/2025 for the 2025 NAIFA strategic plan, and you can download our business implementation plans there. In order to make sure that we're transparent, again, every quarter we send you, our members, an updated dashboard talking about the progress that we made over the course of the past quarter, the obstacles that we encountered, and what our work is going to be in the quarter ahead to make sure that we stay on top of our promise to deliver that value to you. Our Q1 report will be delivered this month in April and sent out to our membership. So when you get it, take a look. You'll see the great progress we're making as an association and the growth that's occurring throughout the NAIFA Nation. Another important thing to recognize since we are in the spring is many of our states are doing our state legislative days right now. In fact, as of April 4th, 31 of our NAIFA state chapters have held state legislative days this year. That helps make sure that the voice of the advisor is presented to policymakers in state capitals all across this great country. We are working to make sure that the NAIC best interest for annuities model is adopted in partnership with ACLI. And we are working to get that done all across this country to help show again that we're representing the best interests of our clients every single day. We're also doing our best to prep our members when they go meet with their state legislators and other policymakers on other key issues that have emerged, such as accelerated underwriting, making sure that we can take e-signatures on policies, and cybersecurity issues and other key things that pop up in our states all across this country. If you've participated in your state legislative days, thank you. That grassroots effort really makes a difference for NAIFA, for the profession, and for our members from coast to coast. And if your state hasn't had a legislative day yet, keep your eye out because it should at some point soon. And if you've got an opportunity, we'd love to have you participate. The more voices we've got and the more engagement we've got, the better we can be at helping make sure the public policymakers make the right decisions to help every American have the financial security that they deserve. April is also Financial Literacy Month, and we're pleased to again do what we can to promote financial literacy for every American out there so they can better understand what's out there, what opportunities arise, and so they can better be financially prepared for their futures. We also support effort being done in legislation all across this country to help make sure that basic financial literacy is a requirement for all high school students to graduate. You can see on the map the great work that we're doing, though, helping push that legislation through all across this country, again, because we want to make sure that every American, regardless of background, has the opportunity to succeed financially and to enjoy a great life. Another topic that I wanted to touch on is NAIFA's role in the caregiving conversation. Whether you're in long-term care or you're working again to help educate policymakers on Capitol Hill or at the state level about the importance of long-term care products, it seems that everybody today is talking about what the caregiver is and the role that they play and how much that means for our economy and for our citizens from coast to coast. NAIFA participated in both the 2023 ILTCI conference, where our own staff members were able to help others lead meaningful conversations in the long-term care space. And we were also to help show how we're advocating for LTC concerns all across this country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Carol Golden, who's our Executive Director of our Centers of Excellence, for the outstanding work that she has done for decades in this space, and also congratulate her on her 2 best-selling books that were featured not only at the ILTCI conference and that we feature here at NAIFA, but also were also featured at a recent event that was sponsored by Engage that had lots of federal policymakers, including members of the U.S. Senate, in attendance. NAIFA was featured as a sponsor at this conference, and we were proud to do so because, again, we believe in helping make sure that all Americans are financially prepared, that everyone has access to all the products that they need. And we also, particularly in the month of March, wanted to do our best to emphasize women's financial security and economic issues. And so we were able to do that at the Engage conference and through a women's fly-in that we held last week in the nation's capital. If you want to see all the great work that the NAIFA Nation has done during Women's History Month, just look it up on Advisor Today, again, available on our website. And speaking of Advisor Today, our first hard copy of the issue for this year was recently mailed out, and it's all been redesigned. But you can also, if you didn't receive a copy in the mail or if you misplaced it, you can also look at it digitally online at any time you want to. Again, at Advisor Today, at.naifa.org. And again, I'd like to just emphasize Bryon's message to you, talking about our congressional conference coming up at the end of May 22nd and 23rd in our nation's capital. And echoing on Bryon's comments, I want to extend to you a personal invitation to come join us as we impact public policy at the federal level as we come together for the nation's largest financial security fly-in event every year, the NAIFA Congressional Conference. And to talk about that and to talk about other things that are pertinent to GR, please welcome Diane Boyle, our Senior Vice President for Government Relations. Diane.
Great, thanks, Kevin. I don't want to be left out, so go ahead and add my personal invitation to the Congressional Conference to Bryon and Kevin's. But let's talk about the NAIFA difference. Bryon and Kevin both hit on this a little bit. Our focus has always been state, interstate, and federal. Obviously, federal, we're dealing with Congress, and the state, we're dealing with the state legislatures. And then that interstate component is really where we see the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, the National Conference of Insurance Legislators, developing models that the states then adopt. And so we put our fingerprints on all 3 of these. And in that way, we're able to have sort of that comprehensive advocacy approach. I'd like to share a little bit. I know Kevin talked about the NAIC annuity best interest model that we've been working to have adopted in the different states. And we had a couple of states adopt just last week as well. So we're now up to 34. So there are 34 states that have now adopted that model, which is fantastic. NAIFA, or California, not NAIFA, California. California came up with sort of a different approach, and their standard of care was a bit problematic for us. And so last week, NAIFA California actually had its state day on the Hill, or state legislative day, if you will. And we're looking at having that legislation amended to become much more favorable. We're waiting to see, Leg Council is working on that now, but it's really those boots on the ground that NAIFA provides that goes in and meets with the state legislators, explains why there's a challenge or an opportunity that exists when they're putting together a proposal, because it's really you guys that sit across the kitchen table and have those discussions with families and can share what some of the concerns or, as I said, opportunities would be. So in California, we're hoping to see a much more favorable legislation because of your efforts, because it was truly problematic when we saw it first introduced. So we're happy to see that that's trending in a better direction because of your efforts. On the financial literacy, as Kevin mentioned, Financial Literacy Month this month, we actually have 19 states that have adopted a high school requirement, and we're going to continue that effort. There are a number of other states that continue to look at that. And then there are 24 states that we've worked with in order to enhance producer recruitment efforts. So we've seen a lot of traction in the states, and you start seeing that, you know, about a third of the states are will get on a trend. And as we start doing stuff, now there are always the outliers that kind of do things on their own, but that's the benefit of NAIFA as well, because you have an organization that has chapters in each of the states. We can benefit from each other, knowing what's going on in another state, what some of the arguments are that really resonated, some of the challenges that maybe you didn't anticipate coming down the pike, but talking to the colleagues in a different state, you're able to address those and be prepared when meeting with legislators. Kevin mentioned 31 state legislative days in Q1. We have another 8 scheduled in Q2. So we're slowing down, but we're not stopping. We're going to make sure that we have our members in all of those state legislatures, having the conversations, developing the relationships, pushing forward good public policy. Then on the federal level, we're working on a number of different issues. Congress was off to a bit of a slow start, and it is still addressing some additional challenges that are outside of our space. So we're seeing a slow start, but we were starting to hear conversations in the tax realm, which obviously is always of interest to us, more around some of the wealth taxes. So think of your estate planning tools, and we're watching very closely to see if they're initiatives that would impact grantor trust or charitable trust, things along those lines, as Congress starts diving into some of the tax issues. Also, data privacy is something. Kevin mentioned some of the electronic notarizations and tools to enhance the way that we work with consumers going through. And those issues actually transcend. We're seeing it on the state level, and we're seeing it in Congress. And again, making sure that we're engaged in all of those conversations, and even at the interstate level as well on the privacy. So all working together there to make sure that we have good public policy, that we can achieve and build financial security for all. And that's what we do on the legislative front. Now, that's sort of a rundown of what's going on. Let's take a look at what we've done, and we've always done this. Let's look at what's new this year. What's new this year is for Women's History Month. We were talking to a number of the different companies that we work with. And, we've seen our men engage in advocacy very strongly, and we sort of disproportionate on the female membership. So we looked at how do we engage more women in our advocacy efforts. And so we thought if we partner with a number of different companies and women in financial services, we have Northwestern Mutual, Emeritus Guardian, and New York Life said, you know what, we're interested in this too. Let's put together a women's only fly-in. We'll send you 10 of our women. We'll introduce them to advocacy. We'll get them engaged, and we'll put them into the mix and get them going. And let me tell you, while the women may have been slow to engage on the broader sense, they really stepped up, and we have some great advocates. Let's take a look at what we actually were able to achieve. If you look at the numbers of people that we brought in, each of the companies sent us a list of invitees. We had about 40 attendees, a little over 40. We represented 23 different states, and we had nearly 100 congressional meetings in one day. It was phenomenal. This is going to tee up perfectly for what comes next, which is in May. We'll have our congressional conference. We now know that we're having more and more women engage as well, which is perfect. We want to have everyone represented at the congressional conference. Kevin gave you some of those numbers. We're looking at, over 400 registrants so far. We want to make sure that we have all states represented. We're well on our way. I think we have 5 that we're missing: Louisiana, Hawaii, New Hampshire, South Dakota, and Wyoming. I'm looking at you. If you're from those states, we need you to register. We've confirmed our first congressional speaker for the conference, and it's Monica De La Cruz. If you haven't met Monica De La Cruz or heard of her, she is a freshman member from Texas, and she's a former NAIFA member. So that's going to be our focus. As Bryon had mentioned, we tend to do membership, grassroots, IFA PAC. Keeping with that theme, we want to make sure that we're tying in our membership to our advocacy efforts, and thought what better way than to bring a former NAIFA member who's now a member of Congress in to address our group. We're also have an invitation pending for Brad Schneider from Illinois, also a former NAIFA member, thought that would be a good duo to have address the attendees. So that's sort of the focus. Super excited. We'll pick up on some of the issues that we talked about in the women's fly-in when they came in, which were making sure that we're preserving access and affordability to products and services that you provide, that we're not putting in place any new legislation that would make it more difficult or more expensive for consumers to access your advice or to be able to afford the products and the tools and the resources that you have and discussed with them. And it's also likely that we're still going to want Congress to sort of monitor the DOL efforts in the fiduciary only space and in the independent contractor space, where it looks like there's some effort to look at how a worker is classified that could be challenging, and reclassify the status of some of our members that operate as independent contractors, not misclassified workers, is very often a chosen profession to make sure that you're if you choose to maintain that independent contractor status. This on the DOL issue. And then we sort of wrap up with a big thank you for the retirement legislation that was passed at the end of last session. That's Secure 2.0. There is an issue that needs to be addressed. Everyone that we've talked to, the 100 meetings that we had just last week, all said, yep, technical corrections to make sure that catch-up contributions can be made are underway. It's just finding the right vehicle. So we're not going hair on fire yet. We do believe that it's going to get fixed, but if we get closer to the end of the year and we don't see that, then you're going to see our efforts escalate a little bit and put a little more pressure. But as it stands now, that looks like what we'll be talking about in May. Congress is very fluid. That could change. As it changes, or if it changes, we'll be sure to let you know. And as Bryon said, you register for the congressional conference. We'll make your meetings for you. We'll give you your schedule. We'll make sure that you have talking points and are briefed on all of the issues. And it's just really an incredible time. So I do hope you'll come, especially if you're from Louisiana, Hawaii, New Hampshire, South Dakota, or Wyoming, because I want to get all states there and represented. With that, Mr. President, I will turn the program back over to you.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Kevin. This is a very special time of year for many of us. So whether you're celebrating Easter, Passover, or spring break with family and friends, I wish you and yours the very best. I hope to see you at Congressional Conference in May and at our next State of NAIFA in July. And thanks for blessing me and NAIFA as a fellow member of NAIFA Nation. See you next time.